Chapter 1. How do we do this rational thing? Well, the answer to that is simple. We have benefits and we have costs. And we weigh the benefits to the costs. If I'm going out to buy a car and all I think about is the benefits, I'm going to buy a Ferrari and I'm going to be broke for the rest of my life. If I'm only thinking about the costs, I'm going to buy the cheapest used whatever junk thing, and I'm going to be walking to school because it doesn't work, or I'm ashamed to drive it, or... Yes? So what do? Well, I look at all the vehicles, and yeah, the vehicle I buy might give me a quarter of the benefit of that Ferrari, but it might cost a 20th as much. And so by ratio, by looking at the size of the benefits to the size of the cost, it's a much better deal for me. All right, what do? We compare costs and benefits and costs. And we pick the thing that has the best ratio, right? And you do that not just when you are buying things. You do that when you're choosing what to do, right? There are some people that you know who only think about the benefits and they're out late all night and every morning they're regretting what they didn't do. They're thinking about the benefits. They're not thinking about the costs. You have other friends who don't go out and they're thinking about the costs and not the benefits. The smart people are the ones who weigh the benefits and costs, go out, enjoy themselves, but don't ever, regret it in the morning. And again, I cannot make that choice for you. Your individual preferences come into play here, and you make the choice that you think is best for you. I am never picking the sushi restaurant. You may pick that sushi restaurant every chance you get. That does not make, well, it does make you irrational, but in theory, it does not make me irrational or you irrational. It means that we have analyzed the costs and benefits against our own set of preferences, and we have made the choice which works best for us. Let's expand on this now. People respond to incentives, and not just people. Every economic entity responds to incentives. Economists don't use the word happiness. We use the word utility. Changes in our utility are incentives. They incentivize us. If you offer me something, if I do something else, if you say, hey, we will give you a tax cut if you buy a house, you have incentivized me to buy that house. We want people to spend more. We give them a tax cut. We hope that incentivizes them to spend more, right? And however the system is set up, the system creates incentives for individuals. There was a concern, and we'll get to this more when we do chapter whatever it is, but when the government redid the unemployment benefit system during the pandemic to try to soften the blow of people losing their jobs, they set up a system where some people got more money in unemployment benefit than they were making when they were working, because they just added a flat amount to everybody's check. That might create a negative incentive. It might create an incentive for you to not to want to go back to work. If you're taking home $700 a week when you're working and you're taking home $1,000 a week when you're not working, you might keep not working. Okay? People respond to incentives. We don't respond exactly in the same way, but people respond to incentives. For businesses, profit is this huge incentive to them, their profits. So we cut taxes on businesses a couple years ago on the theory that the businesses would be incentivized by this, that they would have extra profit and they would use that money and invest it back in their companies and create jobs and help the economy boom. Instead, they mostly took that money and bought their own shares of stock back to make the share price of their stock go up, which was much to the benefit of the owners of the company, the stockholders, the board people, the management people, but not so good for the economy as what we had expected them to do. But it's an incentive. We can't predict how you, based on your preferences, are necessarily going to respond to that incentive. But we know that when we create that incentive for you, you're going to change your behavior, right? If we create an incentive for you to not smoke, then hopefully that means people will smoke less. And we've done a lot of that, right? We've added taxes to cigarettes to make smoking more expensive. We've run campaigns to make smoking less cool. We've banned advertising. We've done all these things to try to discourage people from smoking. People respond to incentives. You get a break, I get a break on my health insurance if I get a physical and get tested, so that instead of waiting until something happens to me, maybe we catch something ahead of time and fixing it is cheaper. That's an incentive. So incentives can be both positive and negative. A tax cut might encourage me to work more. It might encourage me to work less. It might encourage me to spend more. It might encourage me to save all that tax cut and I can retire early. Each individual responds to these things in different ways. Those unemployment benefits, again, the fact that we have unemployment benefits makes it easier for people if they lose their job, and so maybe you're not quite as concerned about keeping your job. And if we set it up wrong, it might discourage you from going back to work. So what you'll hear in Congress, the debate over unemployment benefits is always, they're good for the economy because that means people can keep spending. They're bad for the economy because they discourage people from working. So what kind of an incentive are they? What effects do they have? We argue about those things. What we don't argue about is that changing the tax system or changing the unemployment benefits or changing the support system for people who are low income or doing something that affects the way we deal with stocks and bonds and the stock market, that all of those things affect the behavior of individuals. Good incentives, bad incentives, but they affect the behavior of individuals. One more thing to add complexity about this, but a really, really important thing. One of the things that distinguishes modern economics and makes our discipline so powerful is this idea of the margin. How do we make good decisions, costs and benefits? Except costs and benefits that are already gone and done and in the past shouldn't bother us now. We make good decisions on the margin. It's a phrase that economists use, on the margin. What's it mean? It means we make our decisions based on one more of something or one less of something. If we're thinking about cleaning up the pollution in a river, we don't say, look, we've made this river so much beautiful, we should keep making it more beautiful. We look at the costs and benefits. If we've already cleaned up 95% of the pollution, what's the cost or benefit of the next bit of pollution? And maybe we're really thrilled that we cleaned up that 95%, but we don't clean up the last 5% because the benefits of that are less than the costs, and maybe we don't do it. It doesn't mean that we didn't do a good job of cleaning up the pollution before, or it was wrong for us to clean up that 95%. Assuming we did that on the margin, that was the right thing to do, but maybe we don't clean up that last little bit. We have this problem all the time. We have an environmental economics class, and you have arguments between people who are environmental studies majors and people who are econ majors in this class. And the environmental studies majors don't think about the margin. They want to clean up 100% of everything. Econ majors are going like, marginal cost, marginal benefits, probably, not the right thing. Okay? Doesn't mean we're anti-pollution. We want to clean up the pollution, but maybe not everything. If there's one little molecule of pollution floating down that river, the benefits of getting rid of that are essentially zero. The costs of that are probably really high. Doesn't make sense, economic sense, to do it. Okay? Marginal benefits and marginal costs. The benefit of one more versus the cost of one more. How do I know the best marginal benefit to marginal cost? Well, I do that by actually finding where they're equal. I keep consuming something up to the point where the additional benefit is equal to the additional cost. And you're saying, wasn't I looking for the ratio, the difference between them? Yeah, I'm looking for the difference between the total benefit I get and the total cost I get. And that turns out to be where the marginal benefit is equal to the marginal cost. And you're scratching your head, and I'll say to you, as you become an econ major and you take more classes, if you haven't taken 102, you will. If you took 102, you should already understand why that's true. As you take more econ classes, we show you more and more and more complex ways to show that that's true. So what I should do is look at find those things where the total benefits are bigger than the total costs. And to do that, I look where the marginal benefit is equal to the marginal cost. It has to do with slopes of lines and all this fun stuff, but set your marginal benefit equal to your marginal cost, and that's the place to be. Let's do two simple examples of thinking at the margin. You're out with your friends and you're having dinner and you've had a couple slices of pizza and you're thinking about the third slice. What's the decision criteria? Do you say to yourself, those were two great pieces of pizza I just ate, therefore, for whatever reason, I must eat a third because of how beautiful the first two were? That's a bad choice. Well, you might want the third in the end. It might be good. But it's a bad decision-making process. Why? Well, what if you're full? What if you consume those two pieces of pizza and now you're just full? You're happy, you're full, you're feeling perfect. Eating another slice of pizza gives you no benefit, or maybe even a negative benefit, right? The benefit might be a minus. You might be feeling worse, and there's a cost. So now it's quite likely that third slice of pizza, the marginal cost, the cost of one more slice, is more than the benefits from that one more slice. It's not all the pizza I've ever had or all the pizza I've had today that is my decision criteria for eating more pizza. It's what's the benefit and cost of more. It's that marginal benefit versus marginal cost. Okay? Let's do an example from the business side. Let's suppose that there's an airplane out at the airport, out at McCarran, and it's going from Las Vegas to New York, and it costs the airline on average $200 per seat. So there's 120 seats on that airplane. It costs $24,000 for that airplane to fly from Vegas to New York. Okay, so they've got to average, when they sell the ticket prices, they need to average more than $200 so they can make money on the flight. Okay. Well, there's 120 seats on the airplane. There's 119 people on it. There's one empty seat. At the last second, you come running up going, hey, $50, I'll give you $50. Put me on the plane. Should they? Well, if I'm just looking at the fact that it costs $200 a person, I'm going, no. But if I'm a smart business person and I understand marginal benefit and marginal cost, I should put them on the plane. Why? What's the cost of putting them on the plane? It's going anyhow. So there's a can of whatever they're drinking and maybe some pretzels, right? Cost me that. It plane will weigh a couple more pounds, so it'll cost me a few dollars in fuel. But I'm still better off at $50 putting them on that plane. I can't do that with everybody, but I can do it with the marginal person, with that last person. Cruise ships do this all the time. If you don't care where you're going, you can call up a cruise line the night before and say, is there something leaving tomorrow? Can you give me a deal? And you can get on a cruise ship for basically nothing. Because once that cruise ship leaves port, if it's got empty cabins, those cabins are generating zero. The cost of putting you on that cruise is very small because it's going anyhow. Whole big ship going anyhow. The crew's already on board. Everything's already on board. The benefits are you're going to spend money once you get on that cruise ship, and it's worth it to them to fill up those last few rooms. Okay? It's important as a business person, as a real person in life, to think about marginal benefits versus total and make your decisions on the margin.